Okay, well, now that 34 years has gone by, I think I can finally reveal this embarrassing, personally embarrassing story. As you see, it's titled, How an Embarrassingly Bad First Date Taught Me About the Television News Business. So I think there's a good point in this, even if I do humiliate myself in the course of telling this story. We've all been young and dumb once. I'm no longer young, but I'm still pretty dumb. But I think you'll find this both interesting and maybe entertaining in a torturous kind of way. Anyway, I was young and dumb, and I was walking down the street in New York, and this is 34 years ago, and I ran into my friend Danny Schechter. Danny Schechter, he used to be called Danny Schechter, the news dissector. He was a very cool guy. He had a thing on radio. He did his own television. He got to deal with PBS. He was Mr. Cutting-Edge video, television, media person. And there he was. So I said, hello, Danny, how are you? And he was with one of the most singularly attractive young women I have ever seen, maybe even to this day. She was stunning, and she had this really short black mini skirt on and long hair and green eyes. And I thought, whoa, who is that? Anyway, I said, hi, and we walked by. And then I went home, and I don't know why. I called Danny. I said, Danny, who was that woman you were with? And he said, oh, that's Elise. I said, oh, you going out with her? He goes, no. I said, can I have her number? I mean, all right, I'm an aggressive little Jewish guy, and probably it's a waste of time, but it doesn't hurt unless you ask. So I thought, what the hell? So I called up Elise, and I said, hi, Elise, this is Michael Rosenblum. I met you today with Danny, and I wonder if you'd like to meet me for a drink sometime. And miraculously, remarkably, she said, yes. This is the days before Tinder and the internet and anything else. You had to actually go out and meet people. So I had just graduated from Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, and I had gotten my very first job in the television business. I was working for Channel 13, which is the local New York public television station. Except I wasn't working for Channel 13 in New York, which is good. I was working for their office in Newark, New Jersey, which is bad, but that's where they're licensed. And I was a production secretary on Mainstream, which was their public affairs show that was on 6:30 on Saturday mornings. It was two guys in a swivel chair with a New Jersey state flag and a palm tree talking about New Jersey issues. It was so terrible, even my mother wouldn't get up at 6:30 in the morning to watch it. Nobody did. But that didn't matter. This is my first job, and I was working for PBS in my mind. Anyway, that's what I told Elise. So I said, why don't you meet me at the Channel 13 building, which happened to be in Manhattan, the Henry Hudson Hotel on 58th Street and 9th Avenue before they moved. Anyway, so I didn't really have an office there. My office was this cubicle out in Newark, but I couldn't say meet me in Newark because that would make me look like the idiot that I actually was. So instead I said, meet me at Channel 13 at 6 o'clock and we'll go grab a drink. Well, of course, not having a cubicle, I had to hide behind the receptionist's desk at the Channel 13. And I said to the receptionist, you don't know me, but I work for Mainstream, which you probably never heard of. And there's a woman named Elise coming to meet me here at 6 o'clock. And why don't you call me when I'm there, and I'll go sit at this table over here, and you can out of sight. And then so Elise showed up, and there she was, and I came through the lobby at Channel 13, Mr. TV producer, that kind of stuff. And we started to walk up 58th Street to go and get a drink somewhere on the Upper West Side. And Elise turned to me and she said, what do you do? And I said, I'm the production secretary at Mainstream, which you never heard of, but I didn't say that. And being production secretary, my job meant making coffee and slicing bagels. But I was a production secretary at Mainstream. It was a public affairs show. And I said to Elise, what do you do? And she said, I run all of ABC News Radio worldwide. And so it was one of these moments where you get like squashed, you know what I mean? It's just like, my little tiny ego I deserved it because I was an asshole, but she crushed my little tiny ego. And needless to say, the date went downhill from there, which is fine. So funny enough, I stayed friends with Elise for many, many years. And to this day, I still see her from time to time. But here's the part that's the interesting thing. Elise was, in fact, the head of all news radio for ABC News Radio Worldwide. And I went to see her one day at their headquarters, and it was a fantastic operation. She stood in front of like hundreds of people taking radio feeds and making tapes and stuff like this. And I think they offered her the vice presidency of ABC News Radio, but she wanted to go into television. She was my age, obviously a lot smarter than I was and a lot more aggressive. And so she wanted to go into television, so they sent her to Chicago, where ABC was then, that was the base, that's where they did their network news show from. and they made her a producer on the evening news, ABC World News Tonight or whatever it was called then. And they sent her to Chicago, and they sent her out on her first television news story. And she went out with the crew, because that's how you did a news story then, to do whatever news story when she went to do. And she came back, and when she came back with one 20-minute cassette. And that was it. That was all she had shot for the whole nightly news speech, which was only going to run like a minute 20 anyway. And she told me the story. I wasn't there. And they went nuts at ABC News. And they said, are you out of your mind? You went with the crew. You went to do a network news show. You only shot one tape. Are you crazy? Because normally you'd shoot like 20 tapes. Make sure you didn't miss anything. That's the nature of television. And she turned to them in her inimitable way. And she said, you, which I can't say here because they'll throw me off Facebook, she said, it's all there on the tape. And, in fact, it was all there on the tape, and she went to an editor, and they cut together a very nice piece. The reason it was all on the tape was that Elise had grown up in the radio business. Well, in the radio business, all the reporters carry their own tape recorders. They go record what they need. They edit it themselves. They narrate it themselves. So everybody records just what they need. And when she went out to shoot the news story for ABC News, she shot exactly what she needed to make 1 minute and 20 seconds. Half the tape was probably still blank because she'd cut her teeth in the radio news business. And in radio, you shoot your own stuff, you record your own stuff. You record your own stuff, you cut your own stuff, you make your own pieces, and so naturally you only record exactly what you need. She was disciplined from the beginning. Television news is exactly the opposite. Television, you go out with a cameraman, a soundman, a producer, an editor, everybody's frightened, they shoot tons and tons of stuff, they shoot these enormous ratios, and they spend forever doing it. Well, they should have hired Elise as the president of ABC News on the spot. Instead, they fired her because she had a bad attitude. See, they didn't like that, but she says, yours, it's on the tape. But it was on the tape. Anyway, she went on to a very good career through ABC, and today she runs a thing with, audio on tape tours of cities, and she has a nice life. So I don't begrudge her. I don't begrudge her for the bad first date. I was the idiot. It was nice of her to stay friendly with me after being such a jerk. Anyway, the point of the story is that I learned from her a lesson that I pass on to all the people we do at our boot camps and at thevj.com, and that's about shooting ratios. One of the great problems with making television is because tape and not digital is so inexpensive, people shoot vast reams of stuff and they lose control of the piece. You have to, when we teach people to shoot, we teach them to shoot almost 1-to-1 ratios. That is, you walk into any store, you go, I need that, I need that, I need that, I need that, I need a soundbite from you, and I'm done. So we've been producing, we produce almost 500, half-hour cable shows a year and a bunch of other stuff, and almost all of them are shot on nearly, not all the time, but nearly 1-to-1 ratios. Well, of course, this speeds things up, and when you learn to discipline your shooting, you don't waste a lot of time shooting a lot of stuff you're never going to use anyway. You learn to focus and do the first edit when you walk in. But this is a lesson that I learned from Elise. Thank you, Elise. Sorry about the bad date. That's how it goes. It's my fault. So I learned 2 lessons. One was don't brag about some stupid, terrible job and make yourself into something you're not. And 2, shoot for the cut and forget about the rest. And that's the lesson for today. 2 lessons for 1. See you later.